Alright, boys and girls, we're going to do something a little bit different in this video because I assume if you're not one of the 6 people that normally watch this channel, then there's a good chance you're only here to get the how-to information on how to replace a starter on a square body S10. And I'm going to go ahead and give you that information right off the top so that you don't have to watch the whole video. And then, once you have that information, if you want to watch the whole video, there it is. Now, the first thing you need to know is don't worry about your wiring until you get the starter off the truck. But the starter is super heavy, so you need some type of block or something underneath the truck to set the starter on once you get it loose. That'll let you take the wiring off of the starter itself. So at that point, I used this 6x6, by the way. You use whatever's available to you. This whole concept would be way easier with a car lift, but I ain't got one now. Now, the next thing you need to know is there's 2 bolts that hold the starter up on the engine. They both go straight up. Now, the one on the inside that is closest to the center of the engine needs to come out first. The one on the outside that's closest to the suspension or the outside edge of the truck, the suspension blocks an impact driver from getting in there. So you might need a swivel, either that or you can use a wrench. I used a wrench to get mine put back in place. But an impact driver on the inside bolt works just fine. Now, you also need to know that that outside bolt is not going to come all the way out because of said suspension mounts. So, in order to get that bolt out, you got to rotate that starter and then pull the bolt out. Now, putting it back in, you need to do the same thing. Put that one bolt in, rotate it, install that bolt on the outside bolt, and then put the inside bolt back in. When you go to take that starter off, you're going to have to take the tail end of the starter, which is actually facing the front bumper of the truck, and push it as far upward as you can before you start, whenever you start trying to pull it out. You want to bring it up like that. So when you do that, if you don't have enough clearance to get it out the hole on the inspection plate, you need to take the inspection plate off. There's 4 bolts, 2 on each side of the inspection plate. 1 bolt also on the edge of the inspection plate closest to the starter. That bolt is got a strap connected to it, probably, that holds the, I assume, the transmission cooler line. I don't know. But that cooler line is in the way of one of those other bolts, or at least it was on my truck. So I did have to take that off so that I could get it moved over, because that coolant line, if that's what it is a stainless or an aluminum hard line. By removing the inspection plate, that'll give you just enough wiggle room to get that starter out. It'll still be a pain in the butt, but it'll be a lot easier. Don't forget, when you put it back in, put your outside bolt back on first, then do your inside bolt. But if I'd have known all this information going into this, it would have been a lot easier than what we ended up with. Hope that helps. Meanwhile, for the 6 of you that want to keep watching, here's what I went through. You see, last year, about a week or 2 after Mini-Nats, which means a year ago, the starter quit working on the death trap. I actually had to get my man Josh McClendon to go get the death trap from work, load it up, bring it to the house, drop it off in front of the garage. So thank you, Josh, for that. Matter of fact, Josh got his own mechanic shop now. Probably should have just taken this to him. The wife and I started carpooling with each other, and we enjoyed it, so I wasn't really in a hurry to fix the death trap, and I didn't really have the money anyway to buy a new starter. And then I realized I got the engine that came out of the stupid truck, so I might have a starter that works. Regardless, this is me trying to learn how to replace a starter. Both of these trucks came with a 4.3 liter V6 EFI. They both have automatic transmissions. Now, I would assume that that means that both trucks have the same starter. Not the same starter between the two trucks. You know what I mean. So I went out back and I found this starter, and it was in the same location as all of the stupid truck parts, so I assume this is a starter that came off the stupid truck. We're really not going to know until we get the starter off the death trap if A, this is off a stupid truck, and B, if they both use the same starter. Regardless, the first thing we're going to do is try to find out what size nuts these are, because that'll make sure that we've got the right size wrenches, hopefully, and then we won't have to get up and down from underneath the truck so much. Alright, I got the graduate running so that we can charge the battery, but that's irrelevant to this video because we're going to work on the death trap. Now, as far as I can tell, the big bolt is a 15 millimeter. I've already popped it loose, and the smaller nut, not bolt, smaller nut seems to be an 8 millimeter. But after crawling up under the truck, the bolts that hold the starter onto the truck apparently are 9/16. So we'll work with that and see where it goes. Alright, the video I watched had the guy pull the starter loose from the engine. My gosh, that's covered in grease and grime. And he said you had to pull the starter basically out and then disconnect the wiring. And I was hoping to get around that concept, but as far as I can tell, he was 100% right, because in order to disconnect that wiring before you pull the starter out, you'd have to totally pull the lower control arm and everything that goes with that. So, I don't know. I guess that explains why the guy that pulled the engine from the truck left the wiring connected to the starter rather than disconnecting the wiring and pulling the engine. Well, that ain't good. Well, maybe. Hold on. Yeah, we'll work with it. One grimy bolt. Oh, come on. Alright, you need a swivel on your socket. I ain't got one of them there things. Or you need a wrench. And I ain't got one that fit. Well, I ain't got one down here. I do have one. Are you serious? I'm gonna have to take this out manually. Oh, wait. Might help to turn it the right direction. All right. Now, apparently, you've got to hold the weight of this starter in order to get the other. Now, the one on the outside of the truck needs to go back in first. Otherwise, you're never going to get it past the control arm mounts. So, now, let's make sure we can reach our wrenches. Ow! Close your eyes when you try to... What the heck? Alright. Push up at the back of the starter, a grunt. Hope that there's enough room in that wiring. I can't reach it from the other side. I got crap falling all over me. Now, I will say that my engine mounts are more slap out, and that might have something to do with what's making this so difficult, but I don't know. I mean, it's right there. All it's got to do is drop down on the end, right there, at the tip, just the tip. Give me the tip, and it'll come out. I don't know, guys. Give me a second. Come on. Good, that way it don't work. Oh my gosh. This is outrageous. Oh, I thought I had it just for a second. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. Wait. Almost. All right, I took a break overnight and thought about it. And my current thought process is that the engine mounts are so squished to the point that the oil pan, or the pan underneath, is sitting directly on the cross member there. So anyway, I'm thinking that the engine has dropped down 1/2 inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch, and that's keeping us from getting where we need to be as far as getting this starter out up here. So we're going to try to take a jack and lift the engine. I talked to my buddy Joe. He seems to think that the oil pan's strong enough to pull enough weight off the engine that we might be able to get that out. I don't know. Now, if you have a car lift, it'd probably be easy to see exactly what we need to do up in here But if you're crawling around on the ground like me, you're eventually going to start wondering why your wife doesn't love you enough to buy you a car lift. I mean, I'm not thinking that, but I certainly understand if you started thinking that. Anyway, that thing right there has got to come out. Got that thing up just a little bit, but I don't know if it's going to help. Starting to think. What I need to do is keep my mouth shut. I wonder if that wiring is attached to the engine, and that's what's holding me up. I don't know. I'm trying to feel it from the backside, but I'm working blind. There we go. Come on. Come on! I need 1/8 of an inch. Maybe if I rotate it. Yeah, I might need a little more than 1/8 of an inch. Oh my gosh. All right, you idiot. You keep doing the same thing over and over, and you keep expecting a different result. All right, so what is that that's blocking me? I can feel it on the backside. It's almost there. All right, I went and lifted the engine a grunt more. Let's see if it helps. All right, if you're still watching this, I assume that you're a sadistic monster that really enjoys watching me suffer. Anyway, at this point yesterday, I had to go to work. That gave me a couple hours to twiddle my thumbs, which means I can watch YouTube videos. And there's a bunch of them out there. So let me save you the trouble and give you a summary of everything that I watched on YouTube yesterday. As far as getting the wiring loose, there's a dozen videos of people showing that you can do it with a wrench right through that little gap, and I'm sure that's possible. A couple of people said you could get the wiring by going from the other side of the cross member, but I think you'd have to do that blind. I don't know. But most people put a block down here, just set the starter on the block and undid the wiring there, which is what we're probably gonna do. Now, as far as getting the starter out, there were a couple of people that said you could flip it around and bring it out backwards, and apparently they got more room under their truck than I do under mine. But the general consensus for getting this starter out of this hole right here is take this entire inspection plate off, which means you got to unbolt this. It's got 2 bolts on that side, 2 bolts on that side. You got a jack. Well, I got a jack in the way. You probably don't. So that's the route we're going to take. I was going to try to leave this one in place just to hang on to the inspection plate so it didn't fall too far, but it's blocking one of my bolts, so okay. I don't think I'm on there good enough. try that. Ooh, that bad boy's tight. Ain't that my luck? Let's move to the other side and come back to this. I think that might work. But we're gonna need a cheater board. Well, crap. All right. You know what would make this a lot easier? Is the idea of somebody else doing it. Good night. The exhaust is in the way of the inspection plate coming down. And, oh, sorry. And what sucks about that is even if you lift the engine up, the exhaust goes up with it. So, how do you get the exhaust out of the way? I'm freaking clueless here. I don't know. Oh, wait. Yes! Get up. Damn, that's heavy. I got a 6x6 over here. And my flashlight died. Ow. Right. I couldn't find a good camera angle to show you how to pull these out, so I'm just going to do it. I mean, you just basically unscrew those nuts. So I will tell you guys this, though. This nut right there on this one is a 1/2 inch. And the nut on the starter we're putting on here is 15 millimeters. So I don't know. We're going to have to compare these starters. All right, Houston, we might have a problem. Here's the one that we just pulled out. Here's the one that was in the back. I believe it came from Stupid Truck. Now, they look the same on this end, but when you come around to the other end, the nose on this one that came out is not quite as long as the nose on that one. I don't know if that's going to make a difference or not. I know it's going to make it harder to get the replacement put in, but we'll find out. By the way, that nut was a 13 millimeter, not a 1/2 inch. This one is a 15 millimeter. And I watched a lot of these videos and people kept calling this right here a ground. Understand this is not a ground. The bolts that connect your starter to the engine block, that's your ground. This is a signal wire coming from your ignition, which tells the solenoid to let this go to here. And of course, this is connected directly to your battery. Meanwhile, the guy at AutoZone says that these two starters are not interchangeable because they have different part numbers. It has something to do with the size or shape of the nose cone. I don't know if he's accurate or not. The simple fact is that if there's two different starter numbers and they don't each work on the other vehicle, there's a good chance I don't need to put the stupid truck starter on the death trap. All right, so I saved up for a couple of weeks. I went down and bought me a brand new starter. That was painful. Before we got started, I acted like Joe Niswonger. Took these bolts outside, cleaned them up with some brake clean. I guess I can be taught. First step, I guess, is... That's not ideal. That's not the first step. Alright, we got our wiring put back on, tightened up. We'll do our best to show you. I don't remember where the camera was or none of that crap. Don't even remember how I was laying when I got that thing pulled out of that hole right there. So let's see what we can do. There's the hole right there. Good night. I don't remember. Ah! Mother joker. I see the flex plate. No. The tail has, there we go. Hopefully. There it is. Yes. All right. Now we gotta, and y'all didn't see none of that, did you? Now we gotta get our inspection cover, or whatever that's called, back in place. And then we wanna get our starter bolted up. Alright, got one started. I think that one started, but I don't want to throw a impact driver on it until we get the other two over there. So and I don't know how I did. I don't know if I came in from the other side or what I did before. I guess I need to watch my own daggum video. Well, I will say that so far, no, I ain't gonna say it because I don't want to jinx it. Maybe that's the right torque. Now, Well, that ain't it. Oh, that's right. You gotta put this one in. But I remember now, dadgummit. Seems to be in place. Yeah, we're gonna edit out 90% of this video. Alright, got a stubby 15mm wrench. And it ain't fitting. So with that. Well, that end fits. Ow. That end does not fit. Huh. That's a cobalt. Of course now, this might not be a 15mm bolt. I just thought it was because of all the grease that was on it. That's pretty tight. I don't know how much of this y'all can see and how much you can't. All right, there we go. I don't know how that happened. The wrench slipped here and I'm bleeding there. I don't know. So in the unlikely event that anybody actually made it to the end of this video, there's a good chance that you've been sitting on the toilet so long that your legs have fallen asleep. So don't forget to do your paperwork. Matter of fact, before you do that, leave me a poop emoji. That way I know you actually made it all the way through this. Peace, love, and mini trucks.